There's an Italian version of Cinderella where the Cinderella character turns into a snake. This is Rosina in the oven. The young wife of a poor man dies giving birth to their daughter, Rosina. It straight up says in the story the reason so many men remarry is that he's gotta work and he needs someone to take care of the kid, so he remarries a new woman. This new stepmother gives birth to another daughter named Assunta, who is as ugly as Rosina is beautiful. The girls grow up together, they go to school, but then one day Assunta comes to her mom and she's like, I don't want to walk to school with Rosina anymore. Everyone's always telling her how fair and beautiful she is, and then they say, I'm black as coal. The mother says, what difference does it make if you're dark-skinned? My complexion is somewhat dark and you get your color from me. Your beauty is very special, don't you see? But that doesn't make Assunta feel better. She's like, whatever, mom, I'm not going out with her anymore. This specific colorism that isn't really racism happens a lot in folklore. Assunta and Rosina appear to be the same race, it's just that Assunta has dark features, and that makes her less beautiful in the culture. There's a huge history spread all over the world about this, most of it stemming, most people think, from colonialism. Some people think the reason it exists in these European, like non-colonized stories is because the paler you are, the more wealthy you are, because you don't have to go out and work hard in the sun, so that's seen as valuable. Some people just argue that because pale hair is more rare, that's why it's sometimes seen as the more valuable trait. It's the reason that the English word fair both means beautiful and pale. In a lot of these European stories, it means the same thing. Either way, Assunta is really envious of her sister, and the stepmom wants to do anything to make her daughter happy, so she devises horrible plans. Or really, she asks her daughter what to do. It's really the daughter who's the bad one in this story. The daughter says give her a pound of hemp to spin while she pastures the cows, and she won't be able to do both at the same time. So if she comes home with hungry cows or not spun hemp, then beat her. Literally, beat her day in and day out, and she'll be a sight. So that'll make her ugly. So the stepmother says, hey, Rosina, here's what you're doing today, and she's dumbfounded, but her stepmother is already holding the stick, so she's like, okay, I'll go do it. Out in the pasture, she cries and talks to the cows, and she's like, how am I ever gonna do this? I'm gonna get beaten, and the cows feel bad for her. The two oldest cows wheeled around and said, don't worry, Rosina, just cut the grass for us and we'll spin all the hemp for you. It doesn't say how the cows spin the hemp, but they do, and so she comes back home with everything done. So the next day they're like, you have to do 2 pounds, but she gets it done with the help of the magic empathetic cows. Assunta asks Rosina how she's doing it, and she straight up tells her, she's like, the cows feel bad for me, so they help me. And so she's like, all right, tomorrow I'm gonna go out and do it. But when she leads the cows out the next day, she keeps whacking them on the rump until they get to the pasture, and she's mean to them and they hate her. So they spin the hemp, but they make it all stringy and disgusting. So then Assunta's like, Mama, I want some lamb's lettuce. Send Rosina to go steal some from our neighbor farmer. And so the mom's like, all right, Rosina, go steal the lettuce. And Rosina's like, I've never stolen before. I feel really bad about it. Plus, I think he's going to kill me if he catches me. But they're like, we're gonna beat you. So she goes. But when she's out there digging for the lamb's lettuce, she digs up this turnip and it's huge. And she finally like wrenches the whole thing up and she finds a toad's nest underneath containing 5 tiny toads. And she is not disgusted. She's immediately in love. She says, oh, how darling, and holds them to her bosom and makes a fuss over them. She's just into frogs. Toads, sorry. But then she accidentally drops one and it falls and breaks its leg. And she's like, oh no, I'm so sorry. The other toads love her so much that they decide to bless her with magic, because they apparently are able to do that. And they say, you're gonna become so beautiful that you will shine like the sun even when it's cloudy. And she's like, oh, thanks. But then the one whose leg she broke, she says, she's crippled me for life, so I'm going to curse her. If sunlight ever touches her, she shall change into a snake and never turn back into a woman without first passing through a fiery oven, which is a very specific curse. So our girl goes home shining like the sun and being really beautiful, and her stepfamily is like super jealous, but then she's like, hey, you guys, I can't ever go out in the sun though, or I'm gonna turn into a snake. And they're like, okay, we'll save that information for later. One day a prince is traveling by their cottage and he sees this bright light coming from inside the house even though it's dark, and so he investigates and finds our glowing, gorgeous, beautiful girl, and he's like, what are you doing here in this hovel? Come and marry me. And she's like, wait, you should know I've been cursed. I will turn into a snake if I touch the sun. And he's like, I don't care, come with me, let's get married. I'm gonna go home, I will send a sealed carriage for you tomorrow so that the sun won't touch you. He leaves, stepmom and stepsister are super mad, so when the carriage comes the next day, the stepmom goes to the guy who's driving it. She's like, hey, I'll give you tons of money if you open the vent when the sun is shining down on the carriage on your way there. He's like, hell yeah, I love money, I'll do that. So he does, and in a flash, Rosina changed into a snake and wriggled off into the woods, hissing. I would be hissing too. So when the carriage gets there and she's not in there and the prince sees the vent, he knows what happened and he's really upset, but everyone's like, dude, it's fine. Like, if this wasn't gonna happen now, it would have happened eventually, so like, get over it. He like calms down enough to not kill the mom and stepsister, but still stays sad. Now the wedding was supposed to be that day, so everyone's already gathered and the cooks have already been cooking all of the food for the feast. And in a moment that's very real, all of the people decide, well, even though there's not gonna be a wedding, we're already here, so let's have the banquet just the same. So the cooks fire up the ovens, and one cook is starting to put in a bundle of brushwood just brought in from the woods and suddenly sees a snake concealed in the bundle. He's like, ah, and throws it into the oven and then peers in to watch the snake fry. But then suddenly there rose out of the flames a maiden, stark naked, fresh as a rose, and more radiant than the fire or sun. I mean, I guess she couldn't take her clothes with her when she turned into the snake. So the cook screams, come quick, I've just seen a maiden in the oven. King's son rushes into the kitchen with the whole court with him. He recognizes her, hopefully puts some clothes on her, and then a wedding is celebrated, and from that time on, she lived happily ever after. The end. I love how this follows the fairy tale tradition of having to transform before you go to your next stage of life, whether because people hurt you or because it's just normal growing pains. You have to shed a skin in order to go to the next stage of your life and find happiness and change. What better symbolism than having to go inside a fire or be a snake? And I guess the moral is also be nice to cows and toads. And like, even if you break one toad's leg, it's gonna be fine.